Well, I'm going to need to make some chicken broth for this week, and I have an entire package of frozen chicken wings, and I have them here. They're still frozen, but they're going to be cooking for quite a few hours, and I'm going to place all of these into our Instant Pot slow cooker, along with some onion skins, and I've got a few other vegetables that I'm going to be adding in, as well as a couple of carrots, because that's going to give it nice flavor. We're going to add some seasoning in, and once we've done that, I'll put the top on it and let that cook. I want that to cook at least 18 hours. Now, the reason for that, and I'm using chicken legs, and I found these chicken legs on sale. There was a big bag of them for about $8, and I just picked them up because I knew I wasn't really going to use them for chicken wings per se, but I was going to use them to make broth, because you know the best thing for a broth is to have lots of bones, and wings have lots of bones. So I'm going to get this area cleaned up, because I had the vegetables first, and got those cleaned up, because today we're going to roast some vegetables. We're going to get the oven nice and hot. We're going to have the salmon tonight, and then I'll prep and marinate the chicken so that I'll have it ready, and all I'll have to do is bring it in, throw it in the oven, and let it finish up cooking on the night that I'm going to have the chicken. So let's get all of that done, and I like to keep a sink of good hot soapy water so that I can wash as I go, and it keeps all the dishes down. Now, that's a knife that I don't want to cut my hand on, so I'm going to put that up there. And I have a couple of lemons that are looking just a little weary, and I'm actually going to throw those into the broth. They're a little dried up, but they've got a few seeds in them. I'm going to take some of the seeds out that I can get to. And once I've done that, I'm just going to toss these, as you can see, 2 little pieces. I'm going to toss those into the broth as well. Okay, so got that in. I have one little onion that looks a little puny, and I think he's going into the pan as well, because he's not going to be pretty when it's time to roast the vegetables. So let's get the rest of those vegetables ready, and get whatever needs to go into that pot and get it started. I found some celery to put in, and I'm using the end of it and just kind of breaking it up and scattering it into the pot. There are a couple other pieces that are looking a little worn that I think I'll toss in as well. You know, sometimes celery just gets a little tired. So I'll throw those in. See if I have a piece I can use tonight. I didn't buy any because I was so sure I had some. So these I'll use tonight. And the rest of these little pieces, I'm going to trim the ends, and then I'll just throw them in the pot. I have a few carrots here. These little baby carrots are organic. That's what I usually use. Give them a little shade. Throw those in. Okay. All right. Try not to waste. No waste. No waste. That's the motto. Waste nothing that you don't have to. All right. Keep nice there. And this is going in our pot. These are the vegetables we're going to roast tonight. The celery. Oh, I also have a little bit of ginger. And I'm going to just give this a little bit of a chop. And, oh, that smells good. You know, ginger is very good for you, very warming to the body. So we're going to put a little ginger in our broth. Okay, now a little handful of ginger. Oh, you know what we don't have is garlic. Let's get some garlic. Right, now in our crock pot, this is what we're going to do. We're going to add some of my house seasoning. I'm going to put in about a 1/4 cup of house seasoning, which you know is onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper. And I think I'll add just a little bit more, about 1.5 cups of that little top. That's what I'm using. I want it to be well seasoned so that when I get ready to use it, I won't have to, you know, do a lot of seasoning. We're going to put a lot of water in here. I'm also going to add just some regular black pepper. Just sprinkle a little in because we like black pepper. I didn't get crazy. I didn't do a whole lot because I knew there was some already in the house seasoning. Okay, so we got pepper. What I'm not going to put in here is salt, because that's definitely one of the things that once you make your broth, you know, when you're preparing a dish, wait for the salt. And that way you'll know that you've got good broth. It's got all the collagen that it needs, but you will have to add salt to the main dish. So this is just the liquid for the dish, so we're not putting any salt in at all. Now I have a 2-quart glass jar, and that's what I'm going to start with for liquid. I'm going to add lots of water in until I've covered everything in the pot. Once I've done that, I'll get it plugged in, turned on, and in about 18 hours, we'll come back to the broth. Right. Okay, let's fill it up a little more. Probably going to take about 4 quarts. Okay. So we have 4 quarts of water, we have all the vegetables, we have all of the chicken, and we're going to put the top on it. I'm going to plug it in. And, all right, we want to oh, while I have this garlic, the ginger, I might as well get it cleaned off, get it cut up, and I'm going to place it into the freezer. Take some of the outer portion off. Got our ginger together. Let me get a reusable bag, and we'll place all of this in it, just a small reusable bag, and then that way when we need ginger, I can just go and grab a little bit out of the bag. All right, so that's it. Now we're going to take our mixture of potatoes and carrots and green beans and even onions. We're going to mix those all together, give them some seasoning. We may even throw in a little bit of celery. But what we're going to do about halfway through the roasting time for the chicken is that we're going to add these vegetables. And of course the potatoes and carrots are going to need to go in
early because of the fact that they will take a little bit longer to cook. Now, we could pre-cook the potatoes, particularly because these are those little baby potatoes, and they really should cook pretty quickly. But just in case, and if you're concerned about that, then you can certainly put them in some water, put them into the microwave for about 10 minutes, and then dry them off a little bit, and then put them onto your oven pan and season them up, and they'll be ready to go into the oven when the time comes.
Okay, our vegetables are ready to go into a grilling pan. We're going to use the cast iron because it's going to make those nice little crispy. I purchased some avocado oil, so let's get some of that. Got our avocado oil. I'm going to add just a little sprinkle of that to the bottom, as well as add a little knob of butter. Just mix up. Whoop, I lost him. Okay, he's in the sink. That's okay. You know what I may do is to just do this by night. Let this be tonight's round of veggies, and then I'll do some more tomorrow night and add something else into it. I think that's exactly what I'll do. I'm going to take most of the green beans out. Okay, got plenty of potatoes. Add some of those carrots in, and you know, since this is nice and seasoned up, let me get those Brussels sprouts, and I'll add Brussels sprouts over here. We'll put these in a Ziploc bag for tomorrow. But this is nice and hot, so I'm going to put this into a 400-degree oven until they're nice and toasty. We're going to cut the ends off, cut it in half. That will give all of the flavor a chance to go through them. Sorry, I have to have a fan on. When you have a gas stove, sometimes that gassy smell bothers me.
I like to prepare bacon in mass quantity, and the reason for that is that later in the week I can use the bacon and also use the bacon grease. when the oven is on, it is just so noisy. And I didn't want you all to have to suffer through that. And so that's the reason why you had quite a bit of music, so you could just kind of watch and see what was going on at that point in the kitchen. Now, tonight we're putting together some chicken, and I wanted a little rice, so I took out one of those packages of cooked rice from the freezer, and we're going to throw that into the microwave and let that get nice and hot. In the meantime, I have the oven heating, and I also placed in a cast iron skillet so that it would be extremely hot. Now, that's the thing. If you're going to roast your chicken, then you want to make sure that the vessel that you're going to put it in is screaming hot. Because what that's going to do when that chicken hits that surface, the skin on it is going to start to sizzle. And you're going to end up with a nice, crispy chicken top. And so that's exactly what we're doing. The oven is set on about 475, and our pan is nice and hot. So let's get that skillet ready to receive this chicken. Now, remember the bacon that we cooked? I use that, I save all bacon fat. So I'm taking about a teaspoon of bacon fat and putting it in the bottom of the pan. And as soon as it hits that pan, it's going to melt. Then we're going to take our marinated chicken and we're going to place it into the skillet. I'm only going to cook 2 of the leg quarters tonight. And then that way I can add more later. Now for this particular dish, I'm going to be putting in some stir-fried vegetables that are going to be good. We're going to serve the chicken, going to have some stir-fried vegetables, and some cooked rice. It is an absolutely gorgeous day today, and I was so ready for warmer temperatures. But you know, sometimes I have a plan, and sometimes the big guy has a plan. So today, I had one thing planned, but his taste buds were calling for something a little bit different. So I'm going to fix for him some beans. He wanted beans and rice with a little bit of a salad, some type of salad, and I'm going to work on all that today. So we're going to get that done, and also going to do a little prep work for tomorrow's dinner, the one that I had planned for today, and we'll get that done as well. So let's get it started. I've taken care of the onions because I'm going to need onions for both meals. So I'm going to go ahead and get those diced up so that I won't have to do those tomorrow. That's something I won't have to do. I'm dicing them pretty finely because while I love onions, I don't like large chunks of onions. So we'll keep them nice and small. So let me get one of my ball containers. I love these little 2-cup containers. These are by Ball, and you can use them for freezing and as well as just regular storage. So I'm going to put in the equivalent of 1 full onion in this cup, and that'll be all ready for tomorrow, and what I have left here will be for today. Onions are something that I purchase often. And in fact, I probably purchase them weekly. I try to buy them in 3-pound bags because that's the most reasonable. Now, if I'm doing some type of specialty burger or something like that, then I might buy a really pretty large onion so that it can go
onto the hamburger just perfectly. But otherwise, I'm going to get this little 3-pound bag of either yellow or white onions, whichever is on sale for that week. So we've got our onions for tomorrow prepped. That's done. I've got some onions, skins, that I'm going to place into my freezer bag and save those for when I'm making broth. And just so happens I did broth the other day, so I have used up all of my onions that I had frozen. I had onions and celery, some parts of green pepper, and all those good things. So anyway, all of this is going into the bag, and this is going to go into the freezer. But I'm not going to put it away just yet because we may have a little bit more to go into this bag. Now I'm going to chop a little bit of celery. So I took the end off the celery and some other little pieces. So I'm putting those into the bag as well. And I'll set that off to the side. Now these, I'm going to give them a good rinse. And I want these finely diced. Because what I'm going to try to do is to get as many vegetables into this bean soup as I possibly can. So I've got some bell peppers and all kinds of good things that are going to go in. So I think what I'll do is that I'm actually going to use my mandolin for this, and that will suffice in getting it as fine as I like it. Okay, I've got the mandolin on its smallest setting. And these are amounts. And I'm not going to go all the way down to the bottom because I like my fingers. There we go. So there's our celery. And we're going to put that on our plate. We've got our onions already diced. Going to add the celery. I'm going to add a few carrots in because carrots are healthy. So that's all of our celery. Okay. And let's get the carrots ready. So let's add our carrots to our plate. Okay. All of that's there. I'm just going to chop this real quick. Now, while we're slicing, I know the big guy likes jalapenos. So I'm going to slice some jalapenos if he wants to put those on top of his beans. Remove the top. Now I'm going to try to slice it so that the membrane, I can get that out very easily. Okay, so all of that little membrane is left. Now just a little bit, and you know, if you want to cut back on the amount of heat that the jalapeno may have, you can certainly take the seeds out, but he likes that. So I'm just going to give these a little slice, put them into a container, and he can take out whatever he wants. Okay. All right, so we're going to place the jalapenos into a small container. Okay, let's do one more. And I'll bring you in close so you can see exactly what I did. Okay, we're going to take the top off. Remove the top. Then take your knife and we're going to go around, start the first slice. And you see how we sliced it. We can see where the membrane is. And then just take your knife and go around. Be very careful. And you'll be able to remove all of the membrane. Then we'll just put them together and give them a quick slice.
Okay, let's get those into the container. And the Big Guys jalapenos are ready. There we go. I'll put a little bit of paper towel in there because I want, if there's any excess juices, I want to be able to kind of soak those up. I typically put that in with green peppers, and I'm even going to add one to our onions over there. So we got that in. There's our little jalapeno peppers, and here's our onions, and we're going to put a square in there as well, a paper towel, to take in the moisture so that we can delete some of the moisture that might be in there that may cause mold. So peppers, onions, all done. When you purchase your celery, you'll find that it's in typically a plastic bag, and that's for their convenience. But I like to store mine in cloth because it will cut down on the amount of moisture. And I'm just going to roll this up and then place it into my vegetable bin. And this celery is going to last the entire week, and it's going to look just like it came from the store. All right, in our skillet, let's get it nice and hot, because before we put anything in it, we do want it to have quite a bit of heat. So we're going to give it just a few seconds to heat up, and then I'm going to add multiple things. I had a little bit of chicken fat, so I'm going to add that into our skillet. And with that, I'm going to also add a little bit of olive oil. I know, a little mixture. And if you don't have the chicken fat, that's fine. I'm using what I have. You could even put in some bacon grease if you have it, because that would definitely give it a very nice flavor. Now I'm going to be using, as far as seasonings, I'm going to use my Leona's House seasoning, which is down in the description box for those of you who may not know. I'm going to put in a little bit of Montreal steak seasoning, because we're not going to put any meat in this, but we want it to have kind of a meaty flavor. So we've got that. We're going to add some ground cumin, because that's going to give it a little bit of smokiness, as well as we're going to use a dash of smoked paprika. And before it's all over with, I'm going to probably add just a tad bit of brown sugar, just a hit of brown sugar, because that's going to bring out the flavor in our beans. So I've got all of that's there. It's sizzling, and we're going to add our diced vegetables that we prepared. We're going to add onions, we're going to add the peppers, the carrots, the celery, all of that is going to go into the pot. I'm going to add just a tad bit of salt, which will help to break it down, just a little, because I don't want it too salty. I'm going to add just some regular pepper, just a sprinkle. In the meantime, we're going to need a little bit of garlic. Now into our pan, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of garlic, just one. And you know, that's a little unusual for me, but I don't want to over season, and I know I'm going to be using my house seasoning, and that has garlic powder in it. I'm going to get about a half teaspoon of brown sugar and add that in. And I use brown sugar rather than white sugar just because of the molasses flavor. So, let's get that put away. Now, the reason for putting the brown sugar in now is because it will have a chance to really permeate everything. And if there's any bitterness in the onions, any bitterness in maybe the peppers, whatever it may be, that will help to take care of that. Now, I've let these vegetables cook until I have a little bit of frond on the bottom, and that's just flavor that's on the bottom. So what I'm going to do next is, first of all, I'm going to turn the heat down just a bit, and
we're going to add the beans. Now what I did with the beans was I took them out of their can, I gave them a little rinse, and we're going to add those beans. Give everything a good stir. You can hear the sizzle. And I'm cooking quite a bit because what I'll do with this is that once we've used them tonight, I'll place the leftovers or the planned overs into a freezer bag, probably 2, so that I can use them at another time. I can just throw them into a soup, or if we want just a bean night, then I can use them for that. And actually, with the fixings that are in here, I could mash the beans up, use them as refried beans, and they'll have a lot of flavor. Okay, so there are the beans. Let's get them seasoned, and then we'll add the liquid. All right, we're starting with some smoked paprika. Just giving it a dash, I'll say about a quarter of a teaspoon to a half. I'm going to add some of my house seasoning. And you know it has garlic powder, onion powder, more pepper, but no salt. Okay, and of course we'll taste all this later. I'm going to add a little bit of that Montreal steak seasoning in, just because it has a lot of good flavors in it, and I like it. Okay, you saw 3 shakes. And we're going to add some ground cumin for the smokiness. 3 shakes. All right, we're good to go. Let's get all that stirred up. Wish you could smell this. It smells wonderful. I can even smell a little bit of the brown sugar in the background. Oh, yes. I'm going to serve this with rice, and I might even whip up some cornbread. Who knows? Now I'm going to add in liquid, starting with a little bit of, that was about a cup and a half that I've put in at this point of broth. That's chicken broth. Even though we're not actually putting the chicken in, I'm going to use chicken broth. And I'm going to add just a little bit more. Just enough to cover the beans. Okay, this is, I'm not going to make it soupy, I don't think. But I do want liquid because when I put it over the rice, I want it to have a little au jus to season up that rice as well. And the rice that we're going to prepare is going to be a seasoned rice. So our beans are there. We're going to put a top on this. But before I do that, let's take a spoon and let's give this baby a taste. Now, as of this moment, it tastes pretty good. I think it needs a little more, maybe a little more salt, but I don't want to salt it yet. And we'll add a little more seasoning along the way. But right now, I think it's well seasoned. Now, let me tell you something. You know, I made the broth, the chicken broth, and it really was good. Now, it's fine for me, but for these beans, they needed a little more seasoning. So I added in a teaspoon of just chicken bouillon and kicked up that chickeny flavor in the background because I know that's how the big guy's going to like it. Our beans have been going about an hour. They gave us time enough to do a few other things. And I want you to see where it is. You know, I left the top on it because I did want a little bit of juice. So I'm going to let that sit there for just a moment and get that out of the way. Now, we're going to take our spoon and just give that a good stir. Oh yeah, that's the consistency I like. Now, if you like yours just a little bit drier, then of course leave your top off. And those beans will just, you know, concentrate down to a very thick broth. So let me get my spoon. Now's a great time to taste what we've got. The seasoning is perfect. So I'm going to put the top back on it. I'm going to let it stay right here. And when it's time for dinner,
I'll just turn it on for a few minutes to get it nice and hot, and then we're ready for dinner.
Now, here's the thing. In the kitchen, we're making decisions. We're trying to be intentional with what we're preparing. And tonight, the meal that we prepared, of course, wasn't exactly for tonight. I actually had it planned later in the week, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. I had everything I needed right here in my kitchen and in my pantries. Now, when you're working intentionally in your kitchen, then that means that if you have a little change up, it's okay because you have purchased everything you need. And you can stay within your meal plan and you don't have to deviate. Now, the nice thing today is that I've got some things going on this afternoon. And when I come back in, it's going to be just a little bit late. So because of that, dinner is going to be waiting for me. I will not have to wait for dinner. All I'm going to have to do is to get everything served up, put it in the microwave, heat it up, and voila, it's going to be ready for the big guy and I to eat. So it's nice. When you make plans in advance, dinner waits for you, and you're wasting nothing. Well, let's put together some cornbread. In our bowl, I'm going to start with the liquid portion. I need a half stick of butter that I've melted with a cup, and then we can always add more. If you want to use buttermilk, you can certainly do that, but I didn't have any today, so I'm using the almond milk, and that's going to work out just fine. I've done that before. I'm going to add in here the sugar. I'm going to place the sugar in here so we can distribute. We need about a 1/4 cup of sugar. This is a 1/2 cup measure, so I'm only going to put about half. So that's our 1/4 cup of sugar. And we're going to need some flour. We need about, I don't want to put that in just yet. Let's wait on that. We need 2 eggs. So I'm going to break these eggs into a separate cup just so that I know that they're okay. So that's 1. And 2. Always crack your eggs in a separate container, because if something's a little off with the egg, you don't want it to spoil the entire mixture. So we're going to whip these up. And then I'm going to add it into our liquid. We're going to pretty much do this cornbread by hand, and I'm trying to do it by memory if at all possible. Okay, so we got the liquids in. All right, let's add our salt. I'm going to need a little salt. About a 1/4 teaspoon, or that's just enough. And we're going to need, we've got our sugar, we've got our salt. I'm going to go ahead and put the baking powder and the baking soda into our mixture so that it will distribute more evenly. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of baking powder. And I'm going to add about a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Okay. Baking soda, baking powder are 2 of the essentials that you always want to have in your kitchen, because they are perfect for anytime you want to bake something. You don't have to go out and buy it. You can bake it yourself.
Now, so I'm whipping this up so that we can have all of this ready. We've got our butter, we've got our baking soda, we've got our sugar, we have our milk, our eggs, we've got our salt and our baking powder all in this bowl. So now I'm going to switch over, get our little whisk, and we're going to whisk in. We need about, I'm going to start with a cup of cornmeal. So this is a 1/2 cup measure. That's 1 and 2. There's our cup of cornmeal. I'm going to go ahead and whisk that. Now the reason I'm doing so much whisking in advance is because of the fact that I want my cornbread to be nice and tender. And if you whisk your flour mixture in the liquids too long, it will start, the gluten will start to set up and it will just be really tough. So we don't want that to happen. So that's the reason why we're making this part of it early. Now I'm going to add in about a cup, maybe 1.5 cups of flour. Our rice is ready. So there's the first half. There's 1 cup, and there's the half. So let's get that whisk all together, get it mixed. Just take your time and fold your flour in. Look at its consistency. If it looks like it needs a little more milk, you can certainly add that. And I'm looking at this thinking, I need a little more liquid. Just a tad bit. So let me get that. Put in a splash. You know what you want your batter to look like. You want it to look more like cake batter. And that was just a little too thick. So this is the thing about cooking from scratch. You look at it, you see the consistency of what it is, and mix from there. I already know I need another splash. Remember, a cake batter consistency is what we're looking for. Okay, I think that's going to do it. Oh yeah, this is going to be perfect. So once I get this mixed up, I'm going to switch over to a wooden spoon. And finish the mix. Make sure that you're touching the bottom of your bowl so that you'll have everything in the mix. Oh yeah, perfect. I'm not sure if it's because I was using almond milk that I needed a little touch more. It may have been, but I don't think so. I think I would have had to add more no matter what. Now, so we're going to take this, we're going to put it into a heated skillet. I want my skillet screaming hot. I'm going to add just a tad bit of oil into the bottom, and then we'll put in our nice, delicious skillet cornbread. Now, I've set the oven for 375, and it needs to warm up. I'm going to make sure everything's clear in there. I have a cast iron, actually it's a cast iron pie pan that I'm going to use, and I'm going to add some avocado oil because the temperature of the oven is at 375, and I want to be able to cook this on pretty high heat because I want a nice crusty bottom. Now, what my mom used to do was that she would actually heat the cast iron right here on the stove and get it nice and hot before she put it into the oven. And that's what we're going to do today.
We're going to heat this, get it hot, and once it's nice and hot, we'll be able to tell when it's ready to sizzle. Then we're going to add in our cornbread mixture. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning up. Use our flour, put it back in. And sugar back in. And I think I'm going to be able to fit my cornmeal right there. Perfect. Not quite ready yet. We'll let it get a little hotter. Now, I hope you can see that our skillet is sizzling, needless to say, and it's smoking. So we're going to get our mixture into our cast iron, and from there, it's going to go in the oven. Now, when we add this into the cast iron, I hope we'll hear a little sizzle. Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I want. I want that sizzle. That means we're going to have a nice crusty bottom to our cornbread, and you can even see it sizzling on the side. See that sizzling on the side? That's going to make our nice crusty bottom. Now let's get it into the oven. Our oven's hot at 375, and we're going to put our cornbread in, and we'll bake it until a toothpick comes out clean. Now I've got pans underneath, and the reason for that is so that the bottom of the bread will brown, but it won't burn. Okay, there we go. Now, warm weather just brings about a desire for me for iced tea. And what I'm going to do today is that I'm going to make my tea, and you'll see I've got ice in the bottom of my pitcher, and I'm actually preparing my tea in the microwave. So I've added in 3 slices of orange. I'm going to add in 3 slices of lemon, and then once the tea has cooled off, I'll add it to our pitcher, give it a good stir, and it's ready to go. Well, let's give it another check. It's browned up a little more, and let's use our almost needs about 5 more minutes. Let me just say that when you're working your kitchen like a modern home economist, you're going to plan your meals.
you're going to have a detailed shopping list. And you're going to make sure that those things that you buy are the things that you're cooking. Now, when you have a plan, the cool thing is that you can flip it around. You don't have to stay with a set date. And remember, your meal, when you plan, and when you plan in advance, your meal is waiting for you, not you waiting on deciding about the meal. And the nice thing is that I really didn't have to do major deciding this week because I knew exactly what was in my refrigerator and ready to go. Now, I hope you've enjoyed being with me this week, and we have certainly, in spite of a few little personal glitches here and there, we have served the family delicious meals. And life is always going to be lifing. And so let's make sure that we're prepared by having a plan. I'll see you soon, right here in the kitchen of Ebony Ivy Thyme.